My name is Mike Schrage, president of GNPI, Good News Productions International. And I welcome you to another episode of Faith Greater Than Fear. We have had opportunities to talk to lots of people about their hope in Jesus Christ, their faith in Him during this lockdown, during this element of fear. And so we want to invite you to some of the best Holy Spirit nuggets. And so we hope you enjoy this version where we talk to former interviewees on this episode of Highlights of Faith Greater Than Fear.
Hope is a beautiful thing, and hope can also be the biggest defeater, because I think through this pandemic, people had hope. Oh, July, things will be better. The summer, it will be better. After the election, it will be better. And this is why we put our hope in things not seen, but things unseen, because if we put our hope in things seen, we'll constantly feel defeated.
If you come to Jesus, you're going to spiral up. You're not going to spiral down. That's the way of the world. You spiral up, which means that you're going to encounter some of the same things over and over again. And it may seem like at some point you are failing, but that's not possible. God redeems and He uses everything.
Paul said, think on these things that are true and noble and right. And I need to sometimes discipline myself. He used command language there. Think on these things. Sometimes you have to make yourself think on these things, not to the exclusion of I'm never going to think a negative thought. No, I think there's something good about that. But that said, what I need to do is, if I catch myself 80-90% of the time thinking about, things are falling apart, everything's everything's being messed up, then there's something way out of balance. And if I can focus on some of the things that are going right, whether that's in my family, focus on some of the things that are going right.
But what I'll pass along is something that Corrie ten Boom said that has ministered to me through COVID. Corrie ten Boom obviously survived the Holocaust. She said, "There are no problems in heaven, only plans." And she was saying God is never caught off guard by anything. His plan is still as much His plan as it was before. He is not caught off guard by COVID-19. He is not caught off guard by the Holocaust. He is not caught off guard that your third kid's coming and you didn't totally know your third kid was coming. I'm not trying to get into theology that every bad thing that happens is either Him doing it or not doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying His plan is never thwarted.
I think the big thing that I just reiterate to myself over and over in my mind is that God is sovereign. I think it's Daniel chapter 3, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are about to have to go into the fiery furnace, and they say with such faith, our God can save us and He will save us. But even if He doesn't, we're not going to bow down to this other thing. We're not going to do whatever it is that you want us to do, because we trust the goodness, the power, the strength, the sovereignty of our God. And that is what I'm clinging to, that God's got this. God is sovereign, whether it is whatever struggle it is, because we're all facing crises in the time of the pandemic and in financial struggle and in the racial unrest and all of these things. God's got this. He is sovereign, and I can let go. I can stop trying to white knuckle everything, because God's got this. He will save us. He will find the way. He's going to lead us through it. And I trust that. That's the only thing that's worth having faith in.
As people of God, as citizens of the kingdom, to not let ourselves develop a bunker mentality to where we feel like we're just hanging in there until things get better. Because the picture that Jesus gave us in Matthew 16:18, on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Really, a good, accurate way to rephrase that is that my church will plunder hell, and we're not His church, we're not His kingdom, to just be hanging in there like that cat in the cat poster until He comes. Rather, He wants us to be seizing the initiative and the opportunity in any thing that comes our way. And so there's nothing in COVID, of course, has not had God on lockdown. He has not been restricted or distanced And so just trying to help us to still live with a very moving forward mindset.
Joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And all three of those things have been really big for me on the trip and then in this time. And but those last two are things I felt I've at least understood for a long time. I know what they mean. But the first one, being joyful in hope, has been something I kind of struggle with for most of my life. Joy is something that I never really understood. And many times I've asked people what it is, but I feel like I haven't really gotten much of a satisfying answer every time I would ask, because people would always say what it's not, or they would say things about it. Like they'd tell me it's not happiness, it's not a feeling or an emotion, it's not dependent on your circumstances, it's always with you. But no one would ever say what it is. And so on the trip, I spent some time just kind of studying through the Bible, like looking at different passages that talk about joy. And I came up with kind of framework in my mind that a framework of a definition, which I only really put into a cohesive sentence Monday morning after I found out the news. And so I define joy as hopeful contentment in a situation due to faith in and love for God as who He is. First of all, it's contentment. Like, I'm not happy about my grandpa dying or about any of the situation. It sucks. I really wish I could be with my family right now. But I'm content with the situation, and I can be content because of my faith in and love for God. You know, as I've grown in my relationship with Him and my love and faith in Him has grown, I've gotten to know Him better. And this faith in and love for God is who He is. It's in Him as who He is, not as who I want Him to be or make Him to be. He's good. He's sovereign, in control. He's omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, and so much more. That's who my faith and my love are in. And, it's hopeful contentment. I'm hopeful in the present that God knows what's best, that this was simply my grandpa's time. And I'm hopeful for the future that God will even use this very sad chapter in my life and this loss for His glory, that somehow He'll redeem this and use this, that He'll work it out for good. And although I know my grandpa finally has peace and rest, and I am still sad that he's gone, but I'm not in despair. I'm hopefully content because of my faith and my love for God as who He is. I have joy.
And I encourage people to be bold in those moments. And so what that means is the B stands for breathe. And I know it's so cliche for a mental health professional to be telling you to breathe. I got it. I know how to breathe. Yes, exactly. The key to this breath is that you want to exhale longer than you inhale. And that's because it helps recalibrate your system. The science behind that is that when we're feeling a really intense emotion, our amygdala and our limbic system is activated. And it deactivates our frontal lobe, which helps us make decisions and helps us be flexible and problem solve. And so breathing helps us really just calm and soothe our nervous system. And then the O stands for observe. And observe is just taking stock of how are you feeling. Our emotions are data. A lot of times we want to pretend that we don't have emotions or we want to ignore them, but we're given emotions for a reason. They give us information. Maybe we're feeling angry, and angry is a complex emotion because it's usually covering up a deeper, more vulnerable emotion: loneliness, isolation, grief, sadness. So we want to just observe, how are we feeling? That's the O. L is listen to your values. What am I valuing here, and how can I let my emotions align with my values? Because a life lived in accordance with your values is a life well lived. And then D is decide upon your action. What course do I want to take? So I think, in those moments, being bold, breathing, observing how you're feeling, listening to your values. As a Christian, probably many of your values are going to be the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience. Okay, now how can I act in alignment to honor my feelings, but also connect them with my values, and then decide upon an action to take with that. I think that's a skill that can be helpful to anyone in any uncomfortable moment.
We want to learn from the exciting, fun, happy success times, but in our lives, so often we learn from the struggle, challenge, things aren't going great times. And these times of COVID have been an amazing learning curve for all of us. I think one of the messages that a lot of us are getting is slow down.
Mm.
I think that in this pace of the American pace is not in sync with a lot of other countries in the world, because we just run, we just blaze. Even through our fun things, we blaze through that while we're looking at our phone, and so we're spinning so many plates and we're doing so many things, which is an intriguing part of my life in both a good and a bad way. So, doing the different projects, part of that just energizes me. And when I let that work, I let myself have margin in between pieces. And I think COVID is one of the messages it's teaching a lot of us, is just you don't have to blaze all the time.
Embrace that suffering, because it's always in the kingdom. It's always joy and pain together, parallel tracks, and to know that suffering with him and for Jesus, it's been granted to us, Philippians 1:29, not only to believe on him, but also to suffer for him, to embrace that as a privilege, as an opportunity, whatever little form of suffering, it may take, some bigger than others, but whether it's loss of taste or smell, that's just a small thing, but to embrace it as followers of Jesus, and not to shun it or to be thinking, oh, I can't wait until this is over, or get back to normal, to say, no, Lord, what is the new place that you want us in during this?
I bought a t-shirt at a thrift store that was like 25 cents, 50 cents, and it says, know your worth. And so I wore this shirt in my daily reflection video. And I really talked about the idea of knowing our worth, that it does not come from anything we do. It doesn't come from anything we achieve. We can't earn it. We can't buy it. We are simply worthy because God says so, and we matter to God. And that's been something that is kind of a constant learning for me personally. And I know that for other people, especially in the time of the pandemic and just unrest, just a lot of chaos in our world. And specifically also in the social media realm, sometimes, we try to find our worth by the things we can control, or we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. And that felt like a message that was good for me to reiterate to myself and good for me to share with others, specifically young people who I know struggle with that.
I'm as broken as the next person in my own special way, just like you're broken in your own special way. And when we recognize our own brokenness and we bring a reality to our relationships, we encourage each other, and we help each other, spur one another on to a greater work as we spiral up, as we deal with what we've got to deal with, not ignoring it, not pretending like it doesn't matter, it isn't existing, but to just keep going. That perseverance, that our suffering produces perseverance, character, hope, and hope does not disappoint us, because God has poured out his love into our hearts by the Holy Spirit. So we have seen an increase of faith and care and love. The community is better because of COVID. And that's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's true. And it doesn't mean that it's been easy. It just means we've had to shift and understand how much even more relationship and connection between people is a priority. It's like a red flashing light always going on in your mind, that we have to care for one another. We have to care for it. In normal times, we're not thinking that as much. As a broad community, we're not thinking that. But more and more, we're thinking we have to care for one another. We have to care for one another.
Wow, didn't you enjoy what they shared? And I hope if you did, you'll share it with your friends or on your social media networks. And we have a podcast version as well. And so every 2 weeks, we're going to have a fresh cut of someone that we're going to talk to about their journey in faith greater than fear. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll have one of these highlight versions. So stay tuned, share with your friends and neighbors. And until then, have a wonderful day, and may your faith be greater than your fear.